Okay, it's time for another reading, and if you couldn't tell by the title, I'm reading. Uh, oh, it's terrible. Like, why did I do that? Sneaking Cider, and I'm pretty sure it's the only chapter, and if not, I'm probably may or may not come back to it to finish it. But I'm reading Sneaking Cider, chapter 1, or the only chapter. I've made a terrible mistake. Go on to bed, Applebloom. It's past your bedtime, her older brother insisted. But every pony just got here, she contested. The Appleblooms had held an annual cider tasting event for all of Ponyville. The finest of the aged ciders, whiskeys, bourbons, and wines were set out for all who partook to sample the labors of the year. It was off to a great start as the last few guests began to arrive. Applebloom, Big Mac is right. It's already 9:30. Fillies need the rest, Applejack added in support of her brother. I'm not a filly, she pouted. I'm a big pony. AJ and Max smiled at each other. They heard this argument before, but it was cute nonetheless. How come y'all get to drink out of them fancy cups when I gotta go to bed? Silly filly. Oh, silly filly, you know you ain't old enough to be drinking this, said Mac. Why not? What does age have to do with anything? She demanded, determined not to accept defeat so easily this time. Because terrible things happen to fillies when they drink grown-up drinks, Mac teased, though his voice stoic and demeanor would lead the impressionable young mare to believe he was serious. Ain't that right, Applejack? He nudged her with his hoof, and she caught his drift. Darn tootin'! Why the world we know it would come crashing down around us. Is that what you want, Applebloom? AJ asked in the most sincere manner she could muster. Applebloom may have been just a filly, but she certainly wasn't stupid. She knew when her siblings were making up stories to scare her, but didn't see any way around her bedtime. Fine, I'm going, the defeated youngster sighed, climbing the stairs to her bedroom as the dull roar of conversations continued to creep up the stairs with her. When she made it to her room, she shut the door, a devious grin across her lips. She reached a hoof into her bow and produced a small sample bottle of her brother's apple whiskey, which she'd managed to sneak off the table when they weren't looking. World would come crashing down. What a bunch of manure, she whispered to herself as she climbed into bed, taking the bottle of hard grain alcohol with her and shimmying beneath her blankets. She set her bow on the headboard and held the bottle out in front of her, examining the amber liquid within. There wasn't much in it, maybe about 3 or 4 mouthfuls for a filly her size. Her doorknob rattled, alerting her that some pony was coming to check on her. She quickly stuck the bottle beneath the covers as Macintosh poked his head through the door. She turned to face him, the cold glass of the bottle resting against the small of her back, sending chills through her body. Why can't I read this fic right? Hey, Applebloom, I know you wanted to stay up with us, he began, taking a step into her room and sitting on the edge of her bed. It's alright, Big Mac. I know I ain't old enough to stay up late, she said in the saddest voice she could manage while I can't read today. Voice she could manage while keeping the bottle she'd stolen as far from his line of sight as possible. You will be one day, and then you can have all the cider you want with us. The thing is, it ain't good for fillies. That ain't done growing yet, he explained, figuring she'd want an actual reason why she wasn't allowed to partake with her family. I know, she sighed, tugging on the big stallion's heartstrings as she gave him those darn puppy eyes. Tell you what, tomorrow after school I'll take you and your friends down to the lake out back for some swimming and such. Applebloom's eyes lit up from the darkness of her room. Really? You mean it? She asked excitedly. She was never allowed to go to the lake to swim by herself, and Mac and AJ were always too busy on the farm to ever take her and her friends. This was a real treat. I do. We can stay here till it's dark out, if you want. He smiled at her. It didn't take much, but he loved to make her little sister happy. when he could. She gripped as much of Mac as she could get her 4 legs around into a hug as he gave her a kiss on the forehead. "Good night, Applebloom," he said, getting off her bed and heading towards the door. "Good night, Mac. I love you." "Love you too, darling." With that, he closed the door, leaving only the light of the moon to illuminate Applebloom's room. She waited a few seconds to make sure she wouldn't be interrupted again before sliding the bottle back out from beneath the covers. "Mac already promised me to take me out to the lake. Maybe I shouldn't," she thought, holding the bottle up to the moonlight, noting the dull orange glow and the light passing through it cast on the ground. "No, I'm a big pony, and big ponies drink whatever this stuff is," she convinced herself, holding the bottle as best as she could in her 4 legs while unscrewing the cap with her mouth. When she managed to open the bottle, she spit the cap to the floor, the tinkling of the metal against the hard wood making more noise than she had anticipated. Once she was certain no pony had heard, she sniffed the open container. The smell alone burned her nose, making her cough a few times before being able to breathe again. "Ponies drink this on purpose?" she said to herself, still unsure of whether or not this was a good idea. "Come on, you've seen Big Mac drink this all the time after work, and he's the biggest pony in town. You want to be like him?" she thought, her internal argument finally allowing her to pluck up the courage to take a full swig. The moment the liquid passed her lips, she regretted attempting so much at once. It burned like the fires of the Tartarus itself, and her eyes blurred as they watered profusely. She forced down the first gulp, nearly allowing it to come back up if not for her willpower alone. After catching her breath, she wondered why any pony would willingly drink the stuff. As the burning began to fade, a smooth aftertaste saturated her taste buds. The apple flavors and hints of charcoal and oak formed a heady bouquet, the likes of which she had never tasted before. On top of that, the longer she thought about it, the better she began to feel. This isn't going to end well. Her tense muscles began to relax, and a general feeling of well-being began to wash over her. There was still about 2 swigs left, and she knew she didn't want to waste any of her brother's hard work. She gathered up her courage and took the 2 mouthfuls, draining the small bottle completely. She coughed a few times while gasping for breath, but she had done it. A sense of pride swelled within her as she felt more mature than ever before. In fact, she felt great. Why would AJ and Macintosh try to keep something to make you feel so good away from her? Excited about tomorrow, she hid the bottle. Oh God, she's gonna get a hangover. She hid the empty bottle beneath her mattress to dispose of it later. All kinds of thoughts swirled around her head about the excitement about the next day would bring. I knew AJ and Mac didn't know what they were talking about. This stuff may taste awful, but it makes you feel great. What could be so bad about this for you? What could be bad for you about that? She wondered as she began to get comfortable in her bed. It felt softer, as if she was sleeping on clouds themselves. No wonder Rainbow lacked sleeping all day. She drifted off to sleep, sure that the next day would be one of the most fun she's had in a long time. Dude, sucks. Oh no. Oh God, I've seen people have hangovers, and they can't stand the next day. That sucks. Should have drank some water. Or milk. Or something like that. Alka-Seltzer. The sun blasted through her window, a pounding headache demanding she keep her eyes closed. Maybe Mac and AJ were right, but if this was the worst part of being a big pony, she could handle it. No problem. She looked out of her window, noting that no pony had come to wake her up for school. She had to have been nearly an hour late. Applebloom hopped out of bed, grabbing her bow on the way out of her room. Rushing downstairs, she was all set to demand to know why no pony had woken her up for school when she noticed the living room was empty. What the hey is? Oh God, I think they found out and then they're just playing a joke on her. They're playing a joke on her. That is my inference. That is my inference. That is my prediction for the rest of this chapter. Where the hey is every pony? she asked herself, grabbing her saddlebags and stepping out onto her porch. Applejack? Big Macintosh? She called, but received no response, and I think someone's gonna come, so I have to pause the video and talk to them. So I'll be right back. Okay, I can grab my move on in the room, rushing downstairs. She was she called, but received no response. Giggling that sounded familiar caught her attention from the barn as the filly bounded down the stairs to investigate. Upon turning the corner, her eyes widened in shock, and her jaw nearly hit the floor. Her cheeks were flushed red, confronting her big sister and Rainbow Dash kissing passionately on a hay bale. What in tarnation? Applebloom shouted, startling both mares out of their love-struck trance as she covered her eyes with her hoof. Oh, hey, Applebloom, Rainbow said nonchalantly, continuing to keep Applejack pinned beneath her. Shouldn't you be at school? What? But what the hey are you doing? She demanded, never having seen such a sight before in her life. I gotta stop doing that with the screen. It makes loud noises and people don't like that. So I'm going to stop myself. Gonna take all the physical constraint that I have in me, but I'll do it for the subs. Okay. What's it look like, silly? Oh God, what's it look like, silly filly? Applejack answered gently. Oh, gently. Okay, I'm not gonna do the same mistake I did for Big Macintosh. So I'm just gonna read through it. I have a little chuckle, but I ain't gonna burst out in laughter. What's it look like, silly filly? Applejack answered, gently kissing up Rainbow's neck. But you and Rainbow? Since when? The confused filly asked. Since always. Oh, since always. I'm the most desirable mare in town. After I'm done here, I still got Spitfire, Fluttershy, Pinkie Pie, and Rarity to have set. Dash explained after Applebloom cut her off. I don't want to know, she shouted, covering her ears. Whatever, your loss, Rainbow added bluntly before going back to what she had been doing. Applebloom shut her eyes and hurried away, shocked by what she saw until she bumped into Twilight after a few steps toward the front of the house. Twilight, think Celestia in here. Rainbow and Applejack are doing stuff they ain't supposed to be doing in the daytime, she explained, a grimace coming over Twilight's features. Really? I'm glad you came to me, she said sincerely. Take me to them. I'll set them straight. Twilight insisted as Applebloom led her around the barn where her sister and Rainbow had moved on from simply kissing, nearly making the little filly gag from the thought of her sister behaving in such a way right in front of her. Twilight gasped, though the two ponies didn't pay too much attention to her as Applebloom covered her eyes with her hoof. Please make them stop. They're in public, for goodness sake. You were right for calling me in, Applebloom. This is serious, Apple said. Twilight said, clearing her throat loudly and getting the two mares' attention. What are you two thinking? Twilight scolded. Having hot filly fooler sex without me. The sexy nerd? For shame. Applebloom's mouth hung open. What? Twilight quickly joined in as Applebloom darted away, wishing she could scrub what she had seen from her mind without a wire brush. I gotta find Mac. Oh no. Oh no. I gotta find Mac. He'll know what's going on. Okay. She searched high and low for her family's orchard and fields, but no sign of her brother anywhere. She went back into the farmhouse, realizing she still hadn't looked in his room. As soon as she came into the house, a line of mares from town led all the way down the stairs into the living room. What the hey are all you ponies doing in my house? We're waiting on Macintosh, of course, a voice from the crowd answered Applebloom as they noticed each had a small ticket and a number on it. Applebloom pushed her way up the stairs and saw that Mac's room had a sign above his door with a number counter mounted above the door frame. The door opened. A mare with a mussed-up mane left, a wide smile on her face as the number above his door changed to allow the next in line to enter. Applebloom barged into her brother's room to a racket of haze and no cutting. Macintosh, what are you doing up here? Ain't you got chores to do or something? I thought you said you were gonna take me out to my friend to the lake today. She pled as Mac lay in his bed, covered halfway by his sheets. Don't worry, don't worry, little miss. Don't worry. We'll go to the lake just as soon as I get my service in every mare in town like I do every day, he explained as though what he was doing was somehow normal. Applebloom's face twisted in a look of frustration and confusion. You don't do this every day. Well, sure I do. I'm the hardest stallion in town, he added confidently, much to Applebloom's disappointment. It looked like he wasn't going to be much help either. Shuddering in disgust at the thought of her brother doing that to every mare in town, she darted back down to the stairs when she noticed Carmel, her cousin Brayburn, and even Twilight's married brother Shining Armor were waiting in this line. What in the hay are y'all boys? And you have a wife! Yeah, but we've had inexplicable crushes with... Oh, God, that's not... No, it was Carmel. With your brother for a long time, even though we don't mention it. There is never any evidence to support it, Caramel responded. That's right. I just came 'cause my life partner Caramel here thought adding another pony to our love life might bring us closer. But Max, your cousin, for Celestia's sake, Applebloom shouted in disbelief. Well, it ain't like one of us is gonna get pregged. I don't want to hear it, she yelled, zipping down to the stairs and out of her house and praying she wouldn't run into more sex-crazed ponies on the way to school. This can't be happening. Every pony's lost their minds but me, she wondered aloud as she entered the town proper. Applebloom hesitated, stopping just outside of the edge of Ponyville. She tried to mentally prepare herself for anything she might see upon her normal route to school. Taking a deep breath, she began to normal walk to the schoolhouse when she heard a familiar voice call from behind. Applebloom, Sweetibelle and Scootaloo. Okay, Applebloom, Applebloom. She turned, recognizing the familiar colors of Sweetibelle and Scootaloo as they bounced towards her. A smile crossed Applebloom's lips, but quickly began to fade as she realized something different about the two crusaders. Oh God. Applebloom unit, are you prepared to proceed to the designated learning facility? Sweetibelle was a robotic filly with a cold green machine eyes that lacked the soul of her fashion-conscious friend. Scootaloo thankfully appeared to be a normal pony. Scoots, what happened to Sweetibelle? The yellow filly asked urgently. Her Pegasus friend smiled at her before clucking loudly, scratching the ground with her foreleg and pecking at the dirt. Oh, come on, that joke is so tired. Applebloom turned to Sweetibot, the only of her friends that could actually speak. What's going on here? She pleaded, as a whirring noise emitted from her new robot friend's head. Her eyes took on a 1,000-yard stare as she processed the question. Corrupt data file. Answer not found, she responded happily. Then how do I find out? She shouted in frustration. Teacher Unit Cheryl Lee provides answers to her pupils on a daily basis. My records indicate the designated learning center instructor has a 97% success rate at answering queries to her database. Okay, just come on, she added in annoyance as Sweetibot followed her. And get Scootaloo, she called over her shoulder as their Pegasus friend continued to scratch at the ground. Affirmative. Chickenloo. Wrangling protocol initiated. Another whirring noise came from Sweetibot as she held the foreleg outward to Scootaloo. A net firing from within her metal foreleg and closing around the chicken friend, despite her wild flapping and clucks of protest. Sweetibot dragged their friend behind them as they made their way to school. I gotta stop talking. I sure hope Shirley knows what she's doing. Applebloom moaned, already tired of the insanity she'd been thrust into the morning. As they ventured further into town, Applebloom soon realized she was not in Ponyville. She had gone to sleep the night before. They passed what used to be the post office, now a building in the shape of a giant muffin. The two pony guards in armor that also happened to be made of what else? Muffins. They advanced on the traveling trio and crossed their spears in front of them. Halt! What business have you in the sovereign territory of the Muffin Queen? The who? Insolent outsider! You know not of the Muffin Queen's glory? No. She rules the block between Main Street and Stirrup Avenue with an iron hoof. Her word is law, and even commoners such as yourself must obey her edicts while passing through her lands, the guard on the right explained. Now, why have you brought this mechanical filly and flightless fowl into Her Majesty's dominion? We're just trying to get to school, Applebloom screamed angrily, stomping her hooves in frustration. She was already tired of this nonsense. Guards! Oh, guards! It's past my muffin time, a grey mare with crossed eyes shouted from a balcony, which Applebloom recognized as her friend Dinky's mother. Why are you harassing the outsiders again? We talked about this. My apologies, my queen. I was simply... Hush, Derpley insisted as she fluttered her down from the balcony, her robe and crown all sporting the muffin theme. Go, guard, the entrance to the palace like you've been trained. Yes, your majesty. I did it again with the screen. Yes, your majesty, they said in unison, bowing their head to their post. My apologies, girls. They get a little overzealous sometimes. Mrs. Hooves, can you please tell me what happened to Ponyville? Applebloom asked, relieved to find an adult mare that wasn't hoof deep in another mare for once. That is gross. What do you mean? This is the way things have always... She was interrupted by a loud siren beginning to wail. Applebloom recognized it as the tornado alarm for the weather center, but their skies were clear. What else could it mean? She glanced back at Derpy to find a look of horror across her features. Quickly, girls, in the castle, and bring your chicken. What? Why? Applebloom demanded, only to be hurried inside by Dinky's mother. The alarm continued to scream out in its warning as the guards barricaded the doors and window. She comes. Oh, is this gonna be like that SpongeBob episode? She comes, Derpy whispered. Who comes? Molestia, the wicked witch of the south. She comes 3 or 4 times a day. If she catches you, you'll be lucky if you come once. The Crusaders were silent. What? Applebloom asked. Never mind. We must simply wait for the all clear, and then you can... A loud crash startled the girls as the roof of Derpy's palace began to shake. Applebloom looked up in time to see the part of the ceiling rip away, revealing to what appeared to be Princess Celestia. However, she learned by now that the appearances were often deceiving. Stay away from Stay away from the Muffin Queen, you monster, the guard demanded, stepping in front of herself, and the girls with their spears crossed. Oh, I think it's been far too long since I've added a stallion pet, the would-be Celestia laughed evilly. Upon closer inspection, her cutie mark was no longer the benevolent sun Applebloom remembered, but instead a riding crop and a set of hoof cuffs. Oh, her royal regalia had been replaced by a tight leather vest and boots reaching all the way up to her flank. She took a stallion in her magic as he struggled to protest. Remember me as I am, he shouted as a black bondage mask with a zipper mouth appeared over his head, silencing him. In seconds she was gone into the distance with her captive. And after she had left, Derpy folded her forelegs and pouted. Now where am I supposed to get another guard? Mrs. Hooves, can you please tell us what happened to Ponyville? Applebloom insisted once again. My dears, Ponyville has always been this way, she replied, much to Applebloom's annoyance. No, it ain't, she shouted, her frustration mounting. If you can't tell us, the princess is crazy, and what are we supposed to do? It looked as though she would be trapped in this insane asylum forever. Derpy put a hoof to her chin and thought for a moment. Ah, I bet Miss Cheerilee would know how to help. She's the smartest pony in town. Applebloom raised an eyebrow. But I thought that Twilight was the smartest pony in town. Derpy scoffed. Derpy scoffed. That slut? Applebloom rolled her eyes and motioned for her friends to follow her. Thanks for helping, Mrs. Hooves, she droned, heading towards the door before Sweetie Bot stopped her. Wait, Apple Unit. My calculations indicate our chances of survival will increase, and our chances of being sodomized by Princess will decrease if we include an adult pony in our travels. Sorta what? Applebloom shook her head. Never mind, I don't want to know. She turned to Derpy. Mrs. Hooves, would you mind helping us get us there? Derpy frowned. I'm afraid I can't, girls, for you see. She paused, turning her face out of a boarded window for dramatic effect. I have cancer. Pony cancer. Pony cancer? Applebloom said flatly. With a heavy sigh, Applebloom strolled towards the door before Derpy called to them. Wait, girls! Applebloom turned slowly. What? There is one mare that can help you on your journey. She lives... Oh, God. That was not the voice I wanted. She lives on a cart outside of town. Trixie is her name. The answers you seek lie in Canterlot, inside the Crystal Palace. The great and powerful Smith will be able to help you with any problems you have. Trixie? You mean the old magician? Applebloom clarified. Yes, the one with the cape and wizard hat. You all must make the journey to Canterlot. Everything you're looking for is there, Derpy insisted. Will the Smith character be able to... Oh, wait. Will be able to help me fix the Ponyville problem? Applebloom asked. What part of everything was I not clear about? Okay, we're going. Author's note. Number of things regretted while writing this? 0. And that is not a chapter. This is not a chapter read. Oh, God. Okay. Let's end the things. Use all the means. I was afraid to click that chapter. Why is this so hilarious? You were right to regret nothing. I like that part where he's like, remember me for who I am. And just take me. Just take me. Oh, God. That is not the first chapter. I have gotten myself into something that I'm probably not going to read anymore. Sad face. Let's end this, and then I'm going to go on to another reading. Probably Chipping Handley.